I'm going to give everybody a second to just get on. Would love to know if you're able to put in place some of the things we talked about yesterday, really paying attention and acknowledging sort of the co-creation around you, acknowledging, how things are starting to show up for you, paying attention to those things, looking for coincidences and synchronicities. Had a great question yesterday about how do you know that that when you get things that seem like signs, how do you know it's ego versus actually sort of source or alignment? And that's a really good question because, a lot of times it can be difficult, right? Because it's like, because of something maybe we really want, we're so focused on wanting that when something comes up, in fact, I just was working with someone and it's sort of like everything that we talked about, every single thing she's seeing is verifying what she believes is going to happen. Now, whether or not that's going to happen is one thing. So it's because she sort of, at some deep level, wants it to happen. And so everything she's seeing is sort of verifying that. That's maybe a little bit more our ego. So when I talk about paying attention to like synchronicities, coincidences, for me, when I know that I have been aligning with, sending out things, aligning, doing my future journaling, all of those things, I choose to take when something shows up for me that seems like more than a coincidence, or I'll notice a sign I'd never noticed before. I'll see some words pop up. I'll see a website I hadn't seen before. And it's exactly in alignment with what I was desiring. I do take those as sort of road signs along. However, it's always a good idea to sort of check in with yourself on how you intuitively feel about it. I think we tend to be very wise about whether we're pushing something forward or we're attracting something. And we can feel it inside ourselves. So you check in with your stomach. How does your stomach feel? Does it feel calm and excited? Or does it feel like a little apprehensive about the situation? I like to close my eyes. One thing that's a very easy thing to do, close your eyes, take your dominant hand, place it over your solar plexus. Close your eyes, inhale and exhale, bring all of your awareness down into your solar plexus, into your stomach, and ask, is this a sign? Was this a sign for me? You can oftentimes sense it. Like, is this a direction I'm supposed to go? You can oftentimes sense it, okay? It'll feel, for me, it almost feels like a bobber went down. It's like a secure feeling. The second thing you can do is say, if this is a sign for me, I want another sign. It's perfectly fine to ask for, I just want validation. So I'm looking for, if this was a sign for me, I want validation that this is the direction I'm supposed to go. And then see if another sign pops up. Those things, for me anyways, can get me out of the way of ego or of trying to force something to happen, force it into being, and instead allows me to really connect with source at a deep level, connect with my intuition at a deep level, and trust that something is the right thing, but then verify it if I need to. Is there, do I need additional validation? So hopefully that clarifies that just a little bit. So I want to talk about, we talked yesterday about how we are all the source. So that means everybody that you encounter, everybody that you meet is like a little piece of the source and is connected to source. And we are all co-creating this together. Okay. And so that again, we have our individual consciousness, collective unconscious, and the quantum potential. And sort of the combination of all the individual consciousness, creates our collective experience that we pull out of the quantum potential, right? So one thing that I like to talk about is that it's important. One great way to start to align yourself is to pay attention to the fact that in many ways, every moment is a prayer and every prayer is answered. What do I mean by that? So a lot of times we were taught to view the source, view God, view whatever creative force, however you call him or her, as something outside ourselves. When we shift that knowledge as something that is actually inside ourselves and inherently we are part of, we can't be removed from that ocean that is the source. That means that instead of feeling that we have to sort of barter or earn the things in our life that we desire. So I think a lot of us, I certainly was taught, you get on bended knee and you pray, and you're sort of almost bartering with God for what you want, right? Well, if I get this, then I'll do that, right? And of course, we can all fall into that. So it's almost like seeing God as like a kind of a vending machine in some ways. You put a few prayers in, and then you get this out, and you promise to do these things, right? So that's, if we look at this from this sort of combination of science and spirituality that I'm presenting, then actually, when we come at something from an empowered place of this is what I desire, this is how I'm going to use my mental power to create what I desire, you are still sending out a prayer in a lot of ways. You're still sending out, and I would change the word prayer to intention, to expectation. So when we send it out that way, there's a really different power dynamic, right? So when we send it out that way, suddenly we become the powerful co-creator here. Suddenly we become that prayer that we send out, that intention, that expectation, because something that's we are connected to and is rippling out into the source, that is connected with the source, and there's nobody to barter with, there's nobody to try to beg from, because you're connected to the source, so you're kind of just bartering with yourself or begging from yourself, and that doesn't make any sense. So instead, when we change that dynamic to one of personal responsibility, that when we put out intention, when we put out expectation, we are sending out a powerful prayer in a lot of ways. And that does affect not only our own individual experiences, but our collective experiences, okay? And so that becomes a situation where instead of having this powerful force outside ourselves, we have this sense of personal responsibility that our portion of the act of creation is very critical, is very important. That we are responsible for whether this goes well or doesn't go well, whether we add and increase the frequency or decrease the frequency. We're responsible for it. There's not something outside of ourselves that we can point to and say, gee, that, I guess we didn't do enough, prayers, or we didn't run around the block enough times, or whatever it is, right? So it's important, once you start to think about your relationship to source in that way, and your personal power, like I sort of subscribe, I think, to kind of almost radical personal responsibility idea, right? Because no matter what is going on, there's something from a mental state, we can choose some act of creation. Again, there are horrible things in this world. I can't understand. I can't pretend to understand. I don't know why anybody would use their personal creation in negative, horrible ways. So in no way am I saying people that are victims of horrible things, somehow it's their fault. It is absolutely not their fault on any possible level. Absolutely not. I'm going to make that very clear. I work with people on my healing side. When I do my personal healing work with people, I can't tell you how many people have been through really horrific abuse as kids. That is 100% no one's fault. Well, it is actually the abuser's fault, but it's not the child's fault. It's not that person's fault on any possible level. So those were things that were beyond in their control, to say the least. And now they have to work. They need to heal it, because that's where manifestations of disease show up from that injury and that wound. So there are horrible, bad people out there, but we can use our own personal power in almost every moment to say, okay, what can I do in this moment in time to use my personal power in such a way that I shift this, right? And that's what I'm more talking about. So it's a really great thing if you can start thinking about the fact that when you have intention, when you have expectation, that you are sending that out as a prayer, and no matter what, it's going to go out, it's affecting the source, and it's going to pull things in alignment back to you. The next thing I want to talk about is, and I know you've heard it before, but judging is really bad, okay? So when we judge others, we are actually judging ourselves, because we are not disconnected. So whatever you're giving out in terms of frequency, you will get back. It will impact you, you will get back. So when you send out love, when you send out non-judgment, when you send out kindness, that is inherently affecting everything around you in that moment in time, right? The particle detector, the expectations. But it's also sending out a wave frequency that is asking to have experiences that are in alignment with that come back to you, okay? So if you think about it, when we judge other people, and we have so much division and so much hatred in the world at the moment, I think there probably always has been. I think we just have more news cycles that tell us about it, which, by the way, try not to watch the news that much. I mean, watch enough that you can be informed, but again, the more that you do it, principle of repetition, the more you tune into the world is a scary place, the world is a bad place, the more likely you are to experience that, okay? So when we look at this in a way, if we judge others, we're literally judging ourselves, because there's nothing that's disconnected from the source. So literally everything in the whole world is a co-creation of the source. So it's like, it's that when you point one finger this way, 3 point back at you. From a scientific standpoint, that's actually what's happening. It's literally pulling that energy back to you, okay? So if we can, as much as you possibly can, and this is what I'd love for you today, is to work on non-judgment as much as you can. And that includes yourself. When we judge ourselves, we are breaking down that innate light that is within us. That power of creation is being in some ways dampened. And so I would ask that you catch yourself today when you're having moments where you might be likely to judge another person. You stop yourself gently, there's no reason for anything harsh, gently, and say, you know what? I'm not going to do this. This is not the direction I'm going. I'm choosing, you can even change. Instead, I choose love, or instead, I just let you be. Be who you are. Exist as you want to, live and let live. Exist as you are, right? The same is true. If you start beating yourself up, judging yourself today for something, catch yourself very gently, and you can simply say, this is a pattern of judgment that I've learned. This is something we will work on getting out of you. This is a pattern, but this is a good start. This is a pattern of judgment that I have simply learned. And I've learned this over a course of time. I've learned it from authority figures. And I am going to be gentle with myself in simply saying, no, I now send love and joy to myself, or love and acceptance to myself, okay? Being gentle. So thinking about the fact that literally every moment when you're sending that frequency out, whether it's out there, out externally, or internally towards yourself. And I would argue that the turning it internal is actually more detrimental to that which you tune into. Because when you feel that you truly you are not worthy of the things you desire, or you think there's something wrong with you, or you think that it's just not possible for a person like you, or whatever the judgments, or you're a klutz, or you're an idiot. I've heard it all. I literally have to monitor myself to not be incredibly hard on myself. I'm just going to be completely honest with that. That is an ongoing thing I have to pay attention to. And so when we turn it against ourselves, I feel like it's worse. It's like you're programming a particle detector in a way that is seeking out experiences that prove whatever you believe as true. And so you can be doing all these things to up-level yourself, like hopefully this course and anything else you might be doing. But then if you are undermining yourself by continuously judging and being harsh and kicking yourself in the butt, that's gonna undo it. You can have all these positive thoughts, but at a core level, you keep turning hatred towards yourself. do you really think you're going to have better in your life? I mean, you're just not. So I'd ask that today you find ways to be non-judgmental of yourself and others, to be kind to yourself and others, and to realize, really bring your awareness today to the thoughts that you're thinking, the words that you're speaking, and realize that each and every moment is an act of creation. It is a prayer. It is an intention or expectation that is going out, and it is impacting reality in every possible moment. And again, as I said yesterday, that does not mean you have to be happy all the time. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is acknowledge that you're sad, acknowledge that you're angry, acknowledge that you're jealous, okay? Because that's all human. And in my healing work, when people come to me, one of the things that absolutely is at a core level manifesting disease is when people hold in, sorry, I had a little glitch there. I'm not sure what's up. So I just want you to focus on those things today. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit about why it's so important that we are in the bodies we are in order to actually experience the life of our desires. And we're also going to talk about how to very closely connect with the art of connecting, but with the art of connecting to the source, to make it more real that you are connected to all of this. And I'm going to give you a few more exercises tomorrow, and I think some journal questions tomorrow that'll hopefully really help. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. I will see you again tomorrow morning. Hopefully you have a beautiful rest of your day. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts about this. And as always, please, if this is helpful for you, please share it. Please invite people into the program because, as again, I am on a mission to help as many people as I possibly can.